Satu, dua, tiga.
A very good afternoon to all of you viewers, and welcome to this inaugural show brought to you by The Gym, Esports 1v1. In our series coming up weekly, we will invite esports people on air to share with us some insights of the industry and bring our viewers into the world of esports. Our first guest for our session today is one hot fella in the esports world of Singapore and as well as the region. He founded Evos Esports in 2016. Last year, Evos secured a Series A funding of total $4.4 million US, of which $3 million US were from Insignia Venture. In 3 years, Evos revenue jumped from $1,000 US to $10 million US in 2019. Last April this year, he was listed on Forbes 30 Under 30 2020 in the Asia Sports and Entertainment Stars category. He is none other than Ivan Yeo, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Evos Esports. Ivan, a very good afternoon to you. I want to know your background before we go into esports. All right, you were in banking initially. What made you start Evos in 2016 and go into esports?
Well, back then, a bit of background. Since young, during my secondary school days and my university days, I've always been an avid gamer. When I was younger, I even had a dream of becoming a professional player myself, but obviously not too good, so decided to go the finance route, the investment route. So 2016, me and my best friends from high school, Michael and Hartman, we came together and all of us are all avid gamers. We saw TI, the Dota 2 TI, and we saw how crazy it is during the event and how much fans were there just to watch and the crazy prize pool that were present during the tournaments, and felt that, this could be potentially a big thing in Southeast Asia. So 2016, when we started out, to be honest, it started as a hobby. We just did it for fun. We loved to play Dota 2 back then, and we just got a team and just did things, just start instead of just waiting around. We just did it and just learned everything from scratch.
Yeah, I think it's a huge learning curve as well, because even for me, back as early as 2013, as you know, when I was doing League of Legends Riot Games All-Star in Shanghai, wow, the atmosphere was enormous, but it took me a little bit longer for me to go into esports finally. Anyway, your life was smooth sailing until 3 years ago when you were diagnosed with Kennedy's disease. And based on the news report, you were left with possibly 2 years before you lose your ability to walk, and as well as talk. Can you tell me a little bit of your condition and what went through your mind when you heard the news?
So I think all my life, health wasn't really too much of an issue. Only until I think 2016 onwards, started to have some issues with my mobility. Couldn't climb stairs, couldn't even stand up from sitting down. Not normal, day-to-day movement was beginning to be problematic. So went to see a doctor. I thought it was just some a nerve problem or some back problem, but after checking, it turns out that it's a genetic disease called Kennedy disease. So essentially, it's similar to ALS, just that it's more progressive. It deteriorates over a longer period of time. So I think back then when I was diagnosed, the doctor told me, like 5 years, in 5 years' time, maybe you have a lot of issues with your mobility, eating, talking, that kind of stuff. So obviously, back then, it's tough, all your life, you are always like, oh, normal, at max you get a flu or fever, and once you get dealt this card, no cure, no hope. In the short term, it's something that takes a bit to overcome. I think anyone in this position probably will have a short period of time where you get very like sad, hopeless, and want to give up. But fortunately for me, I was able to turn things around, adapt my perspective, look at things from another perspective, see it as a driver to my own career, I mean, good or bad, all depends on how you look at things, right?
I must say that you did pretty well. You did pretty well there. You did pretty well there. With the results that you're showing in these 3 years. And what actually inspired you to come back and make you fight hard like what you're doing now? Can we talk a little bit on that? What actually inspired you? I remember that I saw a story that you actually said in the news. Maybe we can tell us that story again.
I think one of my personal drivers or motivation for starting Esports was that, back then when I was an investor, sure, you can invest money, you can do business, you can make money, but I couldn't really feel the impact of my work on society. That's why I always had this dream of building a company that directly inspires and impacts people in the country that I do business in. And that's where Evolve became a very important part of my life. It is not just a business project. It's more than that to me. To me, it's a way for me to create a business or create an icon that can stand the test of time and inspire the next generation of our countries. And I mean, that was one of the biggest driver. And personally, I also don't like to be a hypocrite. When managing the teams, I always tell them, you lose, you learn. As long as you don't give up, there will always be another sunny day. And I can't say that without me myself, wanting to give up. So I need to, get back up. It's just a matter of life.
I personally definitely hear a lot of good story about you, a lot of the way that you treat people. Honestly, after my conversation with a lot of the people from esports, a lot of them held you as very high esteem. Definitely you are doing the right thing. That's how I can feel it. So, Evo's income was $10 million last year, according to the reports. Can you share with us what was the biggest breakthrough in the last few years for Evos? And then, how did you do it in 3 years? Because that was an absolutely, a big feat for anybody in the business world. You want to talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. I think esports is a very new industry. So if you come in with the idea of just creating a business around esports, then things look a lot more difficult. For us, the reason why we were able to grow so fast was because, given our experiences in other industry, we kind of copied several business models and then implemented it to our esports business. For example, the esports business is as simple as an influencer business, whereby if you want to monetize sponsorship, it's all about your fan base, your audience, your content, your engagement. These are quite standard metrics to use to grow the business. So we kind of applied real-world business models to the esports industry and built a business around that. In terms of our first big breakthrough, I think one thing I do a lot was I studied the Chinese industry, esports industry. I studied European and US markets, and we
Yep.
also learned a lot about the trends that the esports market do progress towards too. And one of it was streaming. So I think back in 2017, we kind of anticipated the streaming war coming, and knowing that, we prepared for it. We made sure that we signed the most popular players, we signed the most popular YouTubers and streamers at that point of time, and groomed them in preparation for the streaming companies to come in. So in the event that they do come in, we are well positioned to at least negotiate a very good deal for us. So they did come in. I think in 2018, April was when we signed the contract with Nemo. And that kind of kickstarted the first wave of our monetization.
So that was done all mostly in Indonesia, I presume, because a lot of the
Indonesia
market
and
is in
Thailand.
Indonesia itself. I see.
Yeah, we got Indonesia first, and then, I mean, streaming companies won't stop in one country, so we invested every single amount we earned. We quickly expanded across Southeast Asia because there's no at that point of time there wasn't a single Southeast Asian esports organization. All esports companies were domestic. So being a regional player gives us a lot of leverage in terms of business and in terms of fundraising. So we got streaming, got the first bulk of the boom, expanded regionally, positioned ourselves for the fundraise, and then that's kind of how we saw the roadmap.
Now that was really very smart, because using your prior experiences in investment, and then taking various profit, not profit as in business model that is successful, putting them all together and applying to esports. Because I think a lot of honestly, from what I look at the market, a lot of other entrepreneurs are having a hard time to monetize from esports, because one of the reasons, you need time to actually know what's the real thing, or what's the best to do in esports in order to monetize. But for you, I think the prior experience that you have in business actually plays a big part here, I would say, based on what you have said. And going on, Evo's back another sponsorship deal with Lazada Indonesia during this situation, this COVID pandemic. So it's esports pandemic proof, or has it actually affected your business at all, with all this situation here? Because I can still see that you're getting another deal with Lazada, during this period.
So I think it's fair to say that in any crisis, there's always going to be winners and losers. Obviously, some industries will be hurt quite dramatically, like retail, F&B for some, etc. Those industries for sure will be hurt quite a fair bit. Esports, I think they are good and bad. In terms of revenue growth, I think it's going to be stagnant. Because if you look at the brand spending, there are brands that will spend. So your digital platforms, your Lazada, Shopee, etc. No doubt they'll still spend. But your endemic brands, maybe they'll be spending less. So your retail, Uniqlo, etc. They'll most likely spend less. So there are gains and there are losses.
Yep.
So to answer your question, I don't think esports is pandemic proof, but if you position yourself correctly, you will be able to weather out the storm.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, because if you like what you said, and I agree that if you position yourself, you will actually tide through it. You will survive this storm. It will. I mean, being a pandemic itself will definitely affect a lot more industry, a lot more people, and it's not just about I think there's a bigger thing that's brewing out there as well, with the stock market, and as well as all the depression that we are going into. So you think that esports is going to ride through this, like your company is going to ride through this, because of the right positioning that you have, right? Okay.
Well, the good thing is the addressable audience has definitely grown. Right now, because everyone's at home, everyone's starting to play games. These gamers may not be esports fans, but because they already heard of or know of the game, for them to convert into esports fans in future becomes easier. I mean, you also look at news reports, right? You have your hardcore fans, you have your occasional audience, right? And the job of the esports ecosystem is to value add to the hardcore fans while converting the occasional viewers.
Yeah, I guess it's a chance for everybody as well, because when everybody, for me, I think that when everybody is glued to the TV or glued to the laptop or phone, that's an opportunity to gain more viewership, to gain more engagement. That's how I look at it as well. I think I agree. That it is a chance to put the brand in the market during this period. For some of the potential entrepreneur who want to come into esports, maybe you can share a little on how they can be involved from the esports, or how they can come in and contribute. Because my feel is that the more people gets involved, the bigger the industry will grow. So what are some of your words for these entrepreneurs out there or investor out there?
It's very important to think differently and figure out a different way of doing things. It's very easy for you to just come in and say, "Oh, I want to do esports. I'm going to do a team, or I'm going to do an event organizer, or I'm going to do an agency." But before you actually decide to do it, I think take a step back, understand the industry a bit more, and figure out a way to disrupt the industry or make the industry how you personally envision it. Because I think I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and still very idealistic. They think that, okay, if I want to make an esports team, I get a team, and then ta-da, it's an esports business. But that's not the fairy tale story lah. The truth is, the industry is still new. If you are copying people's business model, it's quite risky. End of the day, you need to create your own style and your own business lah. You need to create your own esports company that is how you see it, not how others see it.
Yeah, because I noticed that as well, especially in our Singapore market. After talking to a lot of people, esports people out there, I realized that Singapore market is actually quite sad, honestly. Anyway, we will continue on that later in our next segment. Before we continue, I want to go on a short break, and we will be right back with Ivan Yeo, co-founder and chief executive officer of EVOS Esports. And after the break, we want to go straight to our local scene, and there will be some pressing question for you. All right, stay tuned.
电竞呢是一个很奇妙的一个新兴行业。当你是打到最高的那种比赛呢，它是一种竞争荣誉。它就是体育赛事跟流行文化的一个结合体。我对这个电竞这个行业呢很有信心。电竞行业的未来呢，就好比流行文化。如果要跟年轻一代呢去沟通的话呢，你必须走电竞这一块。未来呢的前景呢是很光芒的。很多品牌呢，它是需要借用电竞这个平台呢，去跟现在的年轻人呢去沟通的，也就是去推广他们的产品。新加坡电竞行业呢，还是处于很初级的一个状态。第一个原因呢，因为新加坡市场小。毕竟才500万，父母呢对孩子打电竞这一块呢还是不是太接受。新加坡电竞行业呢是需要所有的电竞行业的人士呢一起出来构想、构思、统筹，看怎么把这一块呢再推到另一个阶层。所以呢，我们就构思了这个地方，就是 The Gym。1楼呢是一个活动空间。2楼呢是一个共享办公室，然后呢，我也希望呢，以这个构思呢，去把新加坡所有的电竞行业的人呢，给都串起来，然后让他们的实时呢都能够在这里交流，然后呢看怎么去推进这个区域的整个电竞的一个趋势。
Welcome back. And once again, we have Ivan Yeo, co-founder and CEO of Esports, Evo Esports. Hey, Ivan. We heard what you said earlier in the program about how you start and about your health conditions, and we want to focus a little bit back onto this region, and talk about esports in Singapore as a whole and as more in depth. We see that Esports is concentrating a lot in Indonesia and having good results there. One factor I feel that is the huge population there in Indonesia, which Singapore can't compete. Definitely we can't compete with regards to the number of people. But what do you think of our local scene in Singapore, and what might be our advantage if we have?
I think for Singapore side, truth be told, from a team perspective, the challenges that a lot of the teams will face is that it's very hard to find 5 talented and committed players to play and train for the game. Because you have your army, you have different commitments. The salaries also have to be quite high for people to sacrifice lah. And fact is esports professional playing isn't really a supported career yet in Singapore. However, for EVOS lah, pretty much all my coaches are from Singapore. I specifically love to hire Singaporean coaches. The education system here is by far the best in Southeast Asia. The people here are by far more disciplined, the most disciplined in Southeast Asia because of the type of education system we go through. We are really used to hard work. We are used to thinking. We are used to be put in tough situation. And that's something that I think Singaporeans are very well advantaged in any industry, not just esports. So, in terms of like the scene over here, talent is good, and there's a lot of opportunities to get good quality talents over here. Starting a team is hard. Making money here is also very hard because of, as you said, the population size is very low and people just don't care. Like, sure, you can win a tournament in Singapore, but your auntie or uncle will just say, "Oh, you win some gaming tournament ah." Even if you're the world champion, it's like, "Oh, you play game ah, go study lah." So it's a very different culture. It needs to be, if it wants to do well, the mindset and the professionalism needs to change. Like the term gamer has to be removed and changed to professional athlete. And I don't think many people understand what a professional athlete goes through. Like, I think most people still see esports professional athletes as playing game all day, when that's actually far from the truth lah. You have nutrition, you have fitness, you have psychologists, you have so much more support system and things going on behind the scene that most people don't see. And these are really necessary for, these are basically the backbone for the esports industry to flourish lah. Like, that's what makes it professional, right?
Yeah, I kind of agree that the word gamer has to be removed, because when I step into this esports space initially earlier, people were telling me that when you use gaming, when you use esports can only be used on the competitive front. When you are playing on a competitive event or tournament, and then you can use the word esports. And if you are just, gaming, normal, you're just playing games, so that's called gaming, that's not called esports. But I just feel that, I don't know whether I might be wrong here, but in terms of the word gaming, if you want to get people to be serious about it, so even when they are gaming at a recreation level, but training to be, half semi-pro or professional, we should use the word esports on them, so there is a kind of glamour and there's something that we are chasing for, rather than saying that these people are gaming. These people are actually training for esports. What they are doing is actually a type of sports which is called esports. I might be wrong, but there will be people who say that, oh, you're wrong, but but I just feel that to elevate the standards of esports and their mentality in athletes, for the start, is like how you treat sports. It has to be termed as a sports already, because there's competitiveness in there. You know, that's how I feel it. Yeah. So, what do you think is lacking here as compared to the other countries in ASEAN? You know, like Indonesia and Thailand market. Of course, population is one of them.
In Singapore needs an icon. For example, when you think about basketball, you immediately know Kobe Bryant, you know LeBron James, you know Michael Jordan. Even though I don't watch basketball, but you still know them, right? If I say soccer, you know David Beckham, you know all these people. When I say esports in Singapore, you know, of course you have your Ice and all this, but I think it's quite sad that given their popularity, they don't have strong social media presence. They have no YouTube channel. They have no content creation. The streams are not well marketed. I think there are a lot of things that weren't done right, lah. And that's something that Singapore doesn't have compared to say Indonesia and Thailand. So under EVOS, pretty much all the most popular pro players and content creators are signed under us. And if you think about Mobile Legends, you know, the names that come up are people like Just No Limit or Lemon or Tuturu. You know, these are the people that brings attraction to the game. It brings the idolism to the game. And that's something that severely lacking in Singapore. If you can, for some reason, find a way to create that icon, whereby when I say esports in Singapore, you think of X person's name, that is one of the main criteria for growth in esports for our country.
I see. Yeah. So
that takes a lot of management. I mean, aside from the content creation, the social media management, you also need your PR and your other stuff. And I don't think anyone is doing that in Singapore.
So are you going to do that in Singapore anytime soon?
Well, I mean, Singapore side, no lah. Singapore, different strategy also you know. Yeah, but we're doing that in Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia lah.
Yeah, and I realized that, you know, some of your similar company like you are doing the same strategy as well. Most of them are based overseas or mainly in other countries or other ASEAN market rather than be in Singapore. You know, they might be a Singapore team, they might be a Singapore company, but a lot of them are based in, for example, Vietnam. You know who I'm talking about, you know. So, and we do understand. So is there a chance that all of you can come back to Singapore and do something together?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's possible. But I think looking at Singaporean nature, heart also, we're all so competitive and, you know, we all want to be number one. It's hard to bring everyone together. But, I mean, in the event that someone can do it, I'm more than happy.
You know, and honestly, when I say that bringing all back together, it doesn't have to be a Singapore, a Singapore kind of tournament. You know, it can be, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do. It can be a ASEAN-wide tournament, you know, but based in Singapore, for example. Anyway, moving on. This is going to be a bit tricky here. You know, we're going to talk about how association is affecting the whole esports scene in the region. You know, we know of the formation of GEF, which is a Global Esports Federation. Their headquarters in Singapore. And at the national level, we have the Singapore Esports Association as well as SCOGA. What are your thoughts with these associations in Singapore? You know, are they giving you the right support for companies like you to grow? Maybe any thoughts on that?
I think I need to give good credit to SCOGA. SCOGA, whatever else other people say, I think they are one of the first few associations in Singapore, and I think they've done their fair share for the ecosystem. In terms of the new association, right now it just feels like a political move. They just want a IOC or whatever that is. So haven't really impacted me much, and I honestly have no idea what they're doing.
What do you want to see out of them? You know, what do you feel that they should be doing? You know, so that to set the esports industry in the right path.
Well, you mentioned that, you know, all these entrepreneurs should come together and start do something together. The federation should be the one bringing people together. But you can't bring people together when you don't know much about the market. because people are just calling your bluff. So that's also an issue.
Yeah, I see, I see. So, going back, you mentioned something about IOC, which is the International Olympic Council. And this question is going to be very controversial, I think. And I'm sure a lot of the people want to know or hear from you. Who needs more of each other? Esports or IOC?
For sure, IOC needs esports more. The fact is, young people these days don't really give a shit about the Olympics. So, to be fair, whether esports is in the Olympics or not, is purely a PR announcement. In fact, it causes more trouble for me. It affects my training schedule. I have to devote more time to the national team training, and that probably hurts my own personal business win rate on the actual leagues themselves. So I think that's what we saw with the SEA Games and stuff. But overall, it's still good for esports in the sense that it makes esports more mainstream. But I don't think the esports industry should back to be in Olympic, because Olympic TV ratings and everything is dropping. In fact, nowadays it's so hard to find countries to host the Olympic, and that's becoming a problem as well. So the relevancy of entire event is gradually fading. So I mean, without any biasness, I dare to say, I think Olympics needs esports more than the other way around.
I think I share the same view as well, because because one thing that why do I think the same way is because if we were to align with Olympics, some of the games will not be allowed to even be shown. Like for like your CS:GO, that kind of shooting game, which is bloody, and that doesn't align with the Olympics overall image. So I kind of agree that it's a PR stunt, and yeah, but I feel that both should coexist, and there should be a different agenda. IOC has its own agenda with regards to, I'm sure one of the main reasons is they want to engage the youth, because like you said, a lot of the ratings are dropped, view ratings are dropping, so they want to engage the youth so that they become more relevant. That's what I think about this IOC thing. Anything to add on that IOC stuff?
I mean, no matter what, the PR is still good. So if it does happen, then it's still also good for the industry.
Yep. Moving on, we are coming to an end of this show, and before we let you go, Ivan, what's just two more questions. What's next for EVOS?
Well, I mean, to give you an analogy, right now, given the business climate, our goal right now is to build the deepest and strongest roots that is strong on the inside, so that we can weather the storm. And once things get better and the boom time comes again, we are able to ride that boom.
Right. That was really good. That was a really good advice that we should concentrate on in this time. Yeah, we should be concentrating on growing roots rather than growing the top. That was really a good advice for everybody, I think.
Without sharing too much,
I understand. I'm sure in the future I will have some of our friends from esports coming, and then they will be sharing about the same stuff. For the aspiring youngsters who might be watching this, what do you have to say to them? Some of these youngsters that they want, some of them doesn't know how to come into esports. What do you have to say to them?
Well, if you really love the esports industry, then show it. Don't just talk. Show it in your actions. Show it in how you go for networking events. How do you go to events and meet up with people, talking to owners, talking to industry players. I think the last thing you want to do is just say you want to be in the esports industry. What you want is, acting on it and actually trying to find a way in. I can't give you an answer on what it is ABC, but end of the day, for example, for EVOS, we always look for people that may not look qualified on paper, But when it comes to the passion and the drive and the love for this industry, that's what we always look for. And that's super hard to find.
I'm sure. All right. Thank you so much for coming to our show, and I really admire you, on your guts and your aspiration despite your own challenge. I think you are a model for all of us. To end this, I wish you luck. And when this whole situation is over, I'm sure both of us will meet face to face over a cup of coffee, and we can talk more and share how we can, improve esports in the region as well as, business-wise. Thank you, Ivan.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. And that's it. Thank you. So that was Ivan Yeo, definitely one inspirational figure in our esports scene. It was amazing hearing him on how he strived and monetized in esports. His initial background in finance and investments gave him the edge in coming up with a viable business model. His view on our Singapore scene was spot on, and that the IOC needs more esports than the other way around was actually controversial indeed. I hope we gave you an insight to his humble beginning and as well as some of his business thoughts. With that, stay tuned to our next episode of Esports 1v1, brought to you by The Gym. My name is Neil. See you soon.
电竞呢是一个很奇妙的一个新兴行业。当你是打到最高的那种比赛呢，它是一种竞争荣誉。它就是体育赛事跟流行文化的一个结合体。我对这个电竞这个行业呢很有信心。电竞行业的未来呢，就好比流行文化。如果要跟年轻一代呢去沟通的话呢，你必须走电竞这一块。未来呢的前景呢是很光芒的。很多品牌呢，它是需要借用电竞这个平台呢，去跟现在的年轻人呢去沟通的，也就是去推广他们的产品。新加坡电竞行业呢，还是处于很初级的一个状态。第一个原因呢，因为新加坡市场小。毕竟才500万，父母呢对孩子打电竞这一块呢还是不是太接受。新加坡电竞行业呢是需要所有的电竞行业的人士呢一起出来构想、构思、统筹，看怎么把这一块呢再推到另一个阶层。所以呢，我们就构思了这个地方，就是 The Gym。1楼呢是一个活动空间。2楼呢是一个共享办公室，然后呢，我也希望呢，以这个构思呢，去把新加坡所有的电竞行业的人呢，给都串起来，然后让他们的时时呢都能够在这里交流，然后呢看怎么去推进这个区域呢整个电竞的一个趋势。